Member Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to use my 5 minutes in this budget debate to talk about the arts. And from a quick Hansard search of the debate so far, sir, I think I might be the only person in the whole debate to have done so far. Sir, this budget, I'm pleased to see the Minister is here. Sir, this budget allocates $282 million to arts, culture and heritage. And to put this in context, this represents 0.33% of total spending in the budget and 0.12% of GDP. It gives a sense, perhaps, sir, of the value of the arts to this government. The biggest, and indeed the only increase in the budgets for arts, culture and heritage in the budget are associated with marking the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings next year. $3.6 million for the National War Memorial and $700,000 for Commonwealth war graves. And it is absolutely right, sir, that we mark this anniversary appropriately. That complex chapter in our history needs to be appropriately recognised, and we need to have meaningful national conversations about what these events mean 100 years on. We saw some of this begin to happen on Anzac Day this year, so you'll find no argument, sir, from the Greens against the inclusion of that extra funding to mark that important centenary. However, funding the commemoration of Gallipoli is not the same as funding the arts. Mr. Speaker, if we remove those budget items related to World War I commemoration in the budget, the spending on arts, culture and heritage has actually fallen by 1.5% in budget 2014. This is not, as the Minister asserted a year ago, a golden age for the arts in New Zealand. Far from it. Mr. Speaker, I recently conducted an online survey of people working in the arts, culture and heritage sector because I wanted to know directly from those working in the area what the major issues were facing the sector and facing themselves. And I was delighted and slightly overwhelmed to receive over 1,200 responses, most of which contained substantive policy suggestions and constructive engagement and ideas for fostering the arts in New Zealand. It seems that the creative sector were very keen to be heard. And not one person who filled in my survey said it was a golden age for the arts. What they did say could be grouped into three clear themes.
Name them.
I will. The first was resources. Artists are there were 1,200 of them, Minister. It would take the rest of my call to list them all. The first theme was resources. Artists are very worried about funding for their work. They feel that there are insufficient funds to go around, and the process of cobbling together funding from multiple sources can be time-consuming, confusing, stressful and demoralising. The second theme was recognition. Artists feel that the arts are not adequately recognised as a vital part both of our economy but also for their intrinsic social, cultural and democratic benefit to the public. Choosing the arts as a vocation is not a well-respected career path in New Zealand, and despite the fact that we all benefit from the fact that some people make that difficult choice, it's not reflected in their experience, and particularly trying to deal with work and income to have your choice of career respected whilst accessing the financial support needed is very difficult for people in this sector. And the final theme was reach. Artists said that as well as funding and promoting the arts themselves, effort needs to go into building audiences and customers for their work, because there's no point in making creative work that disappears off into a void. Fostering participation and appreciation of the arts is just as important as fostering creative work itself. So the 3 R's, we could add another one as well, the regions, because another strong theme that emerged was that outside the main centres, artists found it very difficult to forge a career in the arts or get recognition for their work. I was keen to see whether any of these things would be reflected in the budget, Mr. Speaker, and unsurprisingly, I'm sad to say, they were not. There were no new resources, as I've said. It was actually a fall in funding for the arts if you take out the Gallipoli commemorations. There was no recognition. Not one person, certainly not the Minister, has put out a press release about what the budget does for arts and culture. And there was nothing to assist artists to reach new areas. And in fact, there was less funding in that area due to the funneling of funds into the new screen production incentive grant in the previous financial year. And finally, for the regions, well, we saved the worst for last. Not only does the budget contain nothing to foster community arts in provincial and regional New Zealand, but it slashes funding for regional museums by 25%. That's a quarter less funding for regional museums, just like that. Mr. Speaker, the government's attitude towards the arts was best revealed in the now infamous comment by the Prime Minister John Key in a written endorsement to the New Zealand Literary Heritage Trail. While our literary heroes may never challenge the glory and respect given to our All Blacks, we still need role models to inspire us. I have news for the Prime Minister, sir. Our literary heroes, and indeed all our creative heroes, already challenge the All Blacks, but they won't do it more with the help of this budget.
I call the Honourable Minister, Amy Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the resounding